Today we're going to dive into something really cool, a fundamental shift in how we learn. We're taking one of the most classic and, let's be honest, sometimes pretty dry subjects and figuring out how to make it totally come alive. We're talking about transforming literature from just words on a page into something you can actually feel and experience. You know that feeling, right? You're staring at some classic novel or a super complex poem, and it just feels distant, like a puzzle where you don't have all the pieces. Well, you are definitely not alone. For so many of us, literature can feel abstract, complicated, and just completely disconnected from our actual lives.
And this is the exact problem that a team of researchers over at Universitas Singapura Karawanga in Indonesia decided they had to solve. They were watching their first-year university students really struggling to connect with their Introduction to Literature course, and they just knew there had to be a better way to do things.
When you really boil it down, the problem is this. If a subject feels like it has nothing to do with you, it's like there's this giant wall blocking you from learning. So the goal became pretty clear. They had to find a way to tear down that wall and make literature feel immediate, personal, and, actually engaging.
So, what was their big idea? Well, they didn't just mess with the reading list. Nope, they created a whole new way to teach by taking two huge educational theories and kind of smashing them together to create something totally new and way more powerful. And here's where it gets really interesting. The solution is all about how these two big ideas work together. On one hand, you've got constructivism, which is basically the idea that we learn best when we're actively building our own understanding. And on the other hand, you've got multisensory learning, the idea that we get it better when we use more of our senses. It's the perfect combo for engaging your brain and your body.
Let's break that down a bit. Constructivism is all about ditching the old idea that students are just empty buckets waiting for a teacher to pour facts into them. Instead, it sees them as active builders, creating their own knowledge through talking, thinking, and doing. It's really about learning by doing.
And then you add the other piece of the puzzle, multisensory learning. This is what takes literature off the page and brings it into the real world. I mean, why just read a scene when you could listen to an audio version, watch a film clip, or maybe even act it out yourself? It just makes sense, right?
But, a cool theory is just a theory until you put it to the test. And that's exactly what the researchers did. They designed an entire course around this new model for about 100 first-semester students. They really wanted to see if this hands-on, creative approach would actually fly in a real classroom.
So here's what they built. It's a 6-stage journey. First, students connect the story to their own lives. Then, they explore the text using different media, not just reading. After that, they get creative, making things like mind maps or even music inspired by it. Then they break into small groups to discuss it, reflect on it personally by writing journals or making vlogs. And finally, they get to express what they've learned by creating their own digital dramas or visual poems. It's this whole arc from just reading to actually creating.
Okay, so this all sounds amazing in theory, but the real question is, did it actually work? After the course was done, the researchers went back and collected a ton of feedback to see if this new method really made a difference.
This is the moment of truth, right? What did the students actually think? Did they feel more connected? Did they get the concepts better? And maybe most importantly, did they actually start to like literature more? And the answer was a huge, resounding yes. A massive 83% of the students had a positive reaction to this new course. They said it was engaging, it was effective, and it was relevant. I mean, that one number alone tells you the experiment was a huge success. And if you dig into that 83%, it gets even better. Nearly half the class, 48%, strongly agreed that the method worked. Another 35% agreed. That's a pretty powerful vote of confidence. Only a tiny 5% disagreed, and the researchers figure that's probably just down to different people having different learning styles, which is totally fair.
And the data just kept getting stronger. When they looked at specific things, the scores were super high across the board. Students reported feeling way more engaged, they understood the core literary ideas better, and, this is so important, they actually developed a greater appreciation for the stories and a stronger sense of empathy for the characters.
So, let's zoom out. What's the big picture here? Well, this study isn't just about one literature class in Indonesia. It's really a peek into what the future of learning could look like. A future that's way more dynamic, more personal, and a perfect fit for our digital world.
And here's why this is such a big deal. By mixing these methods, the researchers created a space where students weren't just memorizing facts for a test. They were building real, actual skills. They were turning abstract ideas into something they could touch and feel,
which helps build creativity, critical thinking, and empathy. And it all felt totally natural to a generation that grew up online.
This quote right here just nails the whole idea. It's about empowering students to be the architects of their own learning. It's a huge shift from being told what a story means to discovering and creating that meaning for themselves.
Which really just leaves us with one final thought. This study proved that a subject that often feels old and stuffy can be made exciting, personal, and totally vibrant. So the real question is, what could happen if we started applying this kind of thinking to other subjects too? Just imagine for a second. What if every class felt this alive?